The phone rang just as I was serving my famous lasagna to our dinner guests, and when I answered, my husband's secretary delivered the most shocking ultimatum of my life. "Mrs. Harrison, I suggest you start packing your bags tonight, because I'll be moving into your house tomorrow morning as David's new wife." What she didn't know was that I had been recording every suspicious phone call for the past 2 months, and her arrogant confession had just sealed her own fate. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed. Because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. My name is Victoria Harrison, and until that devastating phone call on a crisp October evening, I believed I was living the life I had carefully built over 15 years of marriage. At 41, I had devoted my entire adult life to creating what I thought was the perfect family foundation. Our colonial home in Westfield represented years of careful saving and thoughtful renovation. Our 2 children, Emma and Michael, were thriving in their respective academic pursuits. My husband David's architecture firm was experiencing unprecedented success after years of building his reputation in the competitive commercial design industry. The illusion of perfection began cracking during the summer months, when David's behavior shifted in ways so subtle that I initially attributed them to work stress and midlife pressures. His evening phone calls, once reserved for urgent client emergencies, became frequent occurrences during family dinners and weekend activities. His explanations were always professional and seemingly reasonable, but the tone of his voice during these conversations carried an intimacy that felt inappropriate for business communications. David's firm had hired Anastasia Volkov as his executive assistant 8 months earlier, a decision he had presented as essential for managing his expanding client portfolio and increasingly complex project coordination requirements. Anastasia was 28 years old, possessed an MBA from a prestigious university, and demonstrated exceptional organizational capabilities that immediately enhanced the firm's operational efficiency. Her qualifications were impressive, her professional references were impeccable, and her contribution to David's business success was undeniable. However, Anastasia's integration into David's professional life had gradually expanded beyond typical executive assistant responsibilities. She accompanied him to client meetings that previously required only his attendance, participated in business dinners that had historically been handled independently, and maintained communication with him during evenings and weekends regarding matters that seemed to extend beyond urgent project requirements. The first concrete indication that something fundamental had changed occurred during our anniversary dinner in September. David and I were celebrating 15 years of marriage at Giovanni's, the intimate Italian restaurant where he had proposed during our college years. The evening was intended to reconnect us after months of increased work demands and family responsibilities that had limited our opportunities for meaningful conversation and shared experiences. Midway through our entree course, David's phone buzzed with a text message that caused his entire demeanor to transform. His face brightened with an expression of anticipation and pleasure that I had not witnessed directed toward me in recent months. When I inquired about the message content, David dismissed it as a routine work update, but his continued distraction throughout the remainder of our anniversary celebration suggested that whatever communication he had received held significance far beyond professional necessity. That night marked the beginning of my systematic observation of David's communication patterns and behavioral changes. I began noticing details that my trusting nature had previously overlooked or rationalized away. His phone, which had always been accessible and unremarkable, became an object he guarded carefully and positioned strategically to prevent inadvertent viewing of incoming messages. His shower routine, once brief and efficient, extended significantly as he spent increasing time on personal grooming and appearance management. The changes in David's physical presentation were particularly striking. A man who had worn the same cologne for our entire marriage suddenly began experimenting with different fragrances. His wardrobe choices became more deliberate and fashion-conscious, incorporating new shirts and accessories that reflected attention to contemporary style trends. His workout routine, which had been sporadic and convenience-based, became a disciplined daily commitment that he prioritized over family activities and household responsibilities. These observations accumulated into a pattern that created persistent anxiety and suspicion, but I lacked concrete evidence to support confrontation or discussion. David's explanations for his behavioral changes remained plausible, and his professional success continued to provide legitimate justification for increased work demands and client interaction requirements. My concerns felt simultaneously valid and potentially unfounded, creating internal conflict between intuitive alarm and rational skepticism. The situation became more complicated when our children began commenting on David's increased absence and distraction during family activities. Emma, who was 16 and particularly sensitive to family dynamics, mentioned that David seemed different and less engaged during their traditional Saturday morning breakfast conversations. Michael, at 14, expressed frustration that David had missed several of his soccer games, despite previously maintaining perfect attendance for sporting events and school activities. Their observations validated my growing concerns while adding emotional pressure to address a situation that remained frustratingly ambiguous. I found myself caught between protecting our children from adult relationship complications and acknowledging the reality that David's priorities and commitments appeared to be shifting away from family responsibilities toward external interests that he was not willing to discuss openly. The financial aspects of our relationship also began reflecting unusual patterns during this period. David had always managed our business accounts and investment portfolio, but he became increasingly secretive about financial transactions and resistant to discussing spending decisions that affected our household budget. Credit card statements revealed charges at restaurants and retail establishments that were inconsistent with his reported business activities and client meeting locations. When I attempted to discuss these discrepancies, David's responses became defensive and dismissive. He characterized my questions as micromanagement and interference with his business operations, suggesting that my concerns reflected misunderstanding of professional requirements rather than legitimate financial oversight. These conversations consistently ended with David expressing frustration about my lack of trust and understanding regarding the demands of his expanding business responsibilities. The emotional distance between us became increasingly difficult to ignore or rationalize. Physical intimacy, which had been a cornerstone of our relationship throughout 15 years of marriage, diminished significantly as David claimed exhaustion from work demands and travel requirements. Our conversations became superficial and functional, focusing on household logistics and children's schedules rather than personal connection and shared experiences. The isolation I experienced during this period was profound and disorienting. Friends and family members who inquired about our relationship received reassuring responses about David's business success and our family's well-being. But privately, I struggled with growing certainty that my marriage was deteriorating for reasons I could not address directly. The gap between public presentation and private reality created additional stress as I attempted to maintain normalcy while investigating concerns that I could not discuss with anyone in our social circle. My professional background in graphic design had been largely dormant during the years when I prioritized family responsibilities and David's career development. However, the growing instability in our relationship motivated me to reestablish connections with former colleagues and explore opportunities for financial independence that would provide security regardless of how our marital situation evolved. This career exploration process revealed how completely I had subordinated my own professional development to support David's ambitions and our family's immediate needs. The skills and experience I possessed remained valuable, but the industry had evolved significantly during my years of reduced involvement. Re-establishing professional credibility and income potential would require substantial effort and time investment that seemed overwhelming given my current emotional state and family responsibilities. The weight of these accumulated concerns reached a breaking point during the first week of October when I decided to implement systematic documentation of David's activities and communications. This decision represented a fundamental shift from passive observation to active investigation, acknowledging that my marriage might be ending, and that protecting my interests and our children's welfare would require strategic preparation rather than hopeful waiting for circumstances to improve. The documentation process began with careful attention to David's schedule patterns, phone usage, and financial transactions. I established a discrete system for recording observations and collecting evidence that could provide clarity about his actual activities versus his reported explanations. This approach felt uncomfortable and invasive, but the alternative of continuing to live with uncertainty and suspicion seemed more damaging to my emotional well-being and our family's stability. The evening of October 10th brought the dinner party that would expose the full scope of David's deception and Anastasia's calculated plan to replace me in his life. I had invited 3 couples from our neighborhood for a casual dinner designed to maintain social connections and provide normalcy during a period of internal turmoil. The evening was intended to be relaxing and enjoyable, offering temporary respite from the anxiety that had dominated my thoughts for months. The dinner preparation had proceeded smoothly, with conversations flowing naturally among our guests, while David maintained his role as the charming host who appeared devoted to his family and committed to our shared life. His performance was convincing enough that our friends left the evening with no indication that anything fundamental had changed in our relationship or family situation. However, as I was serving dessert and coffee, my phone rang with a call from a number I recognized as David's office line. The timing was unusual since David was sitting at our dining room table, and the office should have been closed for several hours. I answered the call expecting to hear a message from the building's security service, or perhaps a client emergency that required David's immediate attention. Instead, Anastasia's voice delivered the ultimatum that would transform my life forever. "Mrs. Harrison, I suggest you start packing your bags tonight because I'll be moving into your house tomorrow morning as David's new wife. David and I have decided that your marriage has run its course, and it's time for him to be with someone who truly appreciates his success and ambitions." The audacity and cruelty of her statement left me momentarily speechless while our dinner guests continued their conversations, unaware that my entire world was collapsing during what appeared to be a routine phone call. Anastasia continued speaking with confidence that suggested she believed her plan was already successful, and that my compliance with her demands was merely a formality. "I've already selected which of your furniture and decorations I'll be keeping," she informed me. "David has given me complete authority to redesign the house according to my preferences. You can arrange to collect your personal belongings next week after I've had time to settle into my new home." The combination of shock, rage, and disbelief that flooded through me was unlike anything I had ever experienced. However, beneath these immediate emotional responses, a clarity emerged that would guide every decision I made in the hours and days that followed. Anastasia's arrogant confession had provided the concrete evidence I needed, while revealing the full scope of her delusional expectations about displacing me from my own life. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. What Anastasia did not realize was that I had been recording all suspicious phone calls for the past 2 months, using an application I had installed after discovering David's secretive communication patterns. Her detailed ultimatum, delivered with such casual cruelty, was now permanently documented as evidence of her role in destroying my marriage and her intention to steal my home and family. As I ended the call and returned to our dinner guests, I felt a transformation beginning that would ultimately expose both David's betrayal and Anastasia's calculated manipulation. The woman who had devoted 15 years to building a family and supporting her husband's dreams was about to discover reserves of strength and strategic thinking that would ensure justice for their deception and protection for everything I had worked to create. The dinner party concluded with our guests expressing appreciation for the lovely evening, completely unaware that they had witnessed the moment when a devoted wife became a strategic opponent who would not surrender her life without revealing the truth about the people who had conspired to destroy it. The recording application on my phone had captured every word of Anastasia's arrogant confession, but the true opportunity lay not just in the evidence itself, but in her complete misunderstanding of who she was dealing with. As our dinner guests departed with warm expressions of gratitude for the lovely evening, I found myself experiencing an unexpected sense of clarity that had been absent during months of uncertainty and suspicion. David retreated to his home office immediately after our guests left, claiming urgent project deadlines that required evening attention. His behavior followed the established pattern of avoidance and secretive communication that had become routine during recent months. However, tonight his actions took on new significance, as I understood that he was likely coordinating with Anastasia about implementing their plan to displace me from my own home and family. The transformation I experienced that evening was profound and immediate. The woman who had spent months questioning her own perceptions and rationalizing concerning behaviors was replaced by someone with absolute clarity about the situation and complete determination to protect everything I had worked to build. Anastasia's ultimatum had inadvertently provided me with the motivation and justification necessary to take decisive action. My background in graphic design had required developing skills in project management, strategic planning, and systematic documentation that I had not utilized during my years of focusing on family responsibilities. However, these capabilities remained sharp and immediately relevant to the challenge I now faced. Creating a comprehensive strategy to expose David and Anastasia's deception, while protecting my interests, would demand the same methodical approach I had once applied to complex client projects. The first strategic decision involved maintaining complete normalcy while conducting thorough investigation and evidence collection. David and Anastasia's confidence in their plan's success meant they would likely continue their activities without additional caution, providing opportunities to document their coordination and future intentions. My ability to appear unsuspecting while systematically gathering evidence would determine the effectiveness of any eventual confrontation. I spent the remainder of that evening developing a comprehensive documentation plan that would capture every aspect of their deception while building an unassailable case for legal proceedings. The recording of Anastasia's phone call represented just the beginning of evidence collection that would need to include financial records, communication patterns, timeline documentation, and witness testimony to establish the full scope of their conspiracy. The financial investigation required immediate attention, since David's secretive behavior regarding household accounts suggested potential asset concealment or unauthorized transfers. My access to bank statements and credit card records had been gradually restricted through David's claims about business confidentiality, but my legal status as his spouse provided rights to financial information that he could not completely eliminate. Early the following morning, while David maintained his usual routine of leaving for the office before I awakened, I began systematic examination of our financial records. The evidence I discovered exceeded my worst expectations regarding the scope and duration of his deception. David had been systematically transferring money from our joint accounts into a separate account that had been established 6 months earlier, coinciding with Anastasia's increased involvement in his business operations. The transferred amounts were substantial enough to represent preparation for complete financial separation, but small enough to avoid triggering automatic notifications that might alert me to the activity. David's approach demonstrated sophisticated planning that extended far beyond a spontaneous romantic relationship, revealing a calculated strategy to position himself advantageously for ending our marriage while minimizing his financial obligations. Credit card statements revealed extensive expenses at upscale restaurants, luxury hotels, and retail establishments that correlated with David's business travel schedule but involved locations and vendors inappropriate for client entertainment. The pattern suggested regular romantic encounters that had been ongoing for months, while being disguised as legitimate business expenses that I had unknowingly subsidized through our shared financial resources. More disturbing than the financial deception was evidence of David's systematic preparation for dissolving our marriage, without providing advance notice or opportunity for discussion. Legal consultation fees appeared on statements from a family law firm known for aggressive advocacy in high-conflict divorce proceedings. The timing of these consultations suggested that David had been developing an exit strategy while maintaining the appearance of commitment to our marriage and family. The property evaluation expenses revealed David's intention to maximize his equity position in our home, while potentially forcing its sale to access his share of accumulated value. This discovery was particularly painful since our house represented years of careful renovation and improvement that we had undertaken together as expressions of our shared vision for family life and future security. However, each revelation strengthened my determination to ensure that David and Anastasia's careful planning would ultimately serve my interests rather than their intended outcome. Their assumption that I would cooperate passively with their demands demonstrated fundamental misunderstanding of my character and capabilities. The same attention to detail and strategic thinking that had made me successful in my professional career would now be directed toward protecting everything they intended to steal. The psychological preparation required for maintaining normalcy while conducting comprehensive investigation was more challenging than the tactical aspects of evidence collection. David's return home that evening required me to interact naturally, while knowing the full scope of his betrayal and his active coordination with Anastasia to replace me. The emotional discipline necessary to avoid revealing my knowledge while continuing to gather information tested every aspect of my self-control. David's behavior during dinner conversation provided additional insights into his mindset and future intentions. His casual questions about my daily activities and weekend plans seemed designed to assess my awareness of his activities, rather than genuine interest in my experiences. His suggestions about visiting my sister in California for an extended period appeared to align conveniently with Anastasia's timeline for moving into our house. The manipulation tactics David employed became obvious once I understood his actual objectives. His expressions of concern about my emotional well-being and suggestions that I needed relaxation and distance from household responsibilities were designed to facilitate my voluntary absence during the transition period when Anastasia would establish herself in my place. His discussion of potential business expansion opportunities that might require extended travel periods was clearly intended to normalize his future absence, while providing justification for Anastasia's increased presence in managing his professional responsibilities. Every conversation revealed additional layers of deception that had been carefully constructed to support their ultimate plan. The strategic advantage I possessed lay in their complete confidence that their plan was proceeding without detection or resistance. David's casual demeanor and Anastasia's bold phone call demonstrated their belief that I was either too trusting or too dependent to mount effective opposition to their scheme. This underestimation would become the foundation for their eventual downfall. That evening, while David conducted his typical lengthy phone conversation in his office, I established secure communication with Sandra Martinez, a family law attorney whose reputation for aggressive advocacy and strategic thinking made her ideal for the situation I faced. Sandra's initial consultation confirmed that the evidence I had already collected provided substantial foundation for legal action, while identifying additional documentation that would strengthen my position. Sandra's assessment of my situation was both encouraging and sobering. The recording of Anastasia's ultimatum represented compelling evidence of coordination and intent that would be difficult for them to dispute or minimize. However, successful legal outcomes would require comprehensive evidence of financial deception, timeline documentation, and witness testimony that established the full scope of their conspiracy against my interests. The legal strategy Sandra recommended involved allowing David and Anastasia to continue implementing their plan while documenting every aspect of their activities. This approach would provide maximum evidence while demonstrating the calculated nature of their deception to any court proceedings that might become necessary. The property protection measures Sandra outlined required immediate implementation to prevent David from liquidating assets or transferring ownership without my knowledge or consent. Legal mechanisms existed to secure our joint property and financial resources, but they required prompt action before David realized that I was aware of his intentions. The custody considerations Sandra discussed provided additional motivation for comprehensive evidence collection. While our children were approaching adulthood, their emotional well-being and financial security remained paramount concerns that would influence all strategic decisions. Protecting their relationships with both parents while ensuring their stability during the inevitable family transition required careful balance between justice and reconciliation. The investigation expanded the following morning when I implemented systematic surveillance of David's activities and communication patterns. The tracking application I installed on his phone, with legal justification based on our shared account and my concern for his safety, revealed the full extent of his coordination with Anastasia regarding their timeline and specific plans for my displacement. Their text message exchanges demonstrated casual cruelty and complete dismissal of my worth as a person and family member. David's descriptions of me as an obstacle to his happiness, and Anastasia's references to my eventual emotional breakdown, revealed their shared anticipation of my destruction as an entertaining aspect of their relationship development. The messages also revealed practical details about their plan that would become crucial for developing counter-strategies. Anastasia had already selected specific furniture and decorations from our home that she intended to keep while disposing of items that represented my personal taste or family history. Their discussion of redecoration plans showed complete disregard for the emotional significance of our shared possessions and family memories. David's promises to Anastasia about eliminating my influence from their future life included disturbing details about minimizing my contact with our children and restricting my access to social circles where we had maintained mutual friendships. Their intention was not simply to end our marriage, but to erase my existence from all aspects of the life we had built together. However, each revelation strengthened my resolve while providing additional evidence for the comprehensive case I was building against them. Their confidence in their plan's success was creating documentation that would ultimately ensure their complete exposure and my protection. The emotional transformation I experienced during this period was as significant as the strategic preparation. The woman who had spent months questioning her perceptions and rationalizing disturbing behaviors was replaced by someone with complete clarity about the situation and unwavering determination to protect her interests and family. The grief I felt for the marriage I had believed we shared was real and profound, but it was accompanied by anger that energized rather than paralyzed me. David's systematic deception and Anastasia's casual cruelty had revealed character traits that made them unworthy of my loyalty or consideration. Their actions had freed me from any obligation to protect their feelings or reputation during the confrontation that would inevitably follow. The planning phase required balancing multiple competing priorities while maintaining secrecy about my awareness and preparation. Evidence collection needed to be comprehensive enough to support legal action, while remaining discreet enough to avoid alerting them to my activities. Timeline coordination required, allowing their plan to proceed far enough to demonstrate intent, while preventing actual damage to my interests or family stability. The strategic framework I developed drew upon every skill I had acquired during my professional career, while adapting them to the unique challenges of exposing marital deception and protecting family resources. The same methodical approach that had once served client projects would now serve justice and protection for everything David and Anastasia intended to destroy. As the week progressed, their increasing boldness provided additional opportunities for documentation while confirming the timeline they had established for implementing their plan. Anastasia's casual visits to our house when she believed I was absent allowed me to observe her behavior while recording her presumptuous examination of my possessions and living spaces. The opportunity that Anastasia's arrogant ultimatum had created was transforming from potential advantage into comprehensive strategic preparation that would ensure their complete exposure and my ultimate protection. The woman they had dismissed as an obstacle was becoming their most formidable opponent. The surveillance applications I had implemented revealed a sophisticated network of deception that extended far beyond the simple affair I had initially suspected. David and Anastasia had constructed an elaborate conspiracy involving multiple parties who were either active participants or unknowing facilitators, in their plan to systematically dismantle my life while positioning themselves for maximum advantage. The first shocking revelation emerged through David's text message exchanges with his business partner, Marcus Richardson, who had been providing crucial support for the scheme through his law firm's resources and professional connections. Marcus had established the secret bank account that David used for asset transfers, utilizing attorney-client privilege to shield these transactions from potential legal scrutiny during divorce proceedings. Marcus's involvement demonstrated that this conspiracy reached into David's professional relationships and business operations in ways that suggested extensive preparation and coordination. The law firm's resources were being utilized to provide David with strategic advantages, while ensuring that my legal rights and financial interests would be systematically undermined through carefully orchestrated maneuvers. The correspondence between David and Marcus revealed their shared perspective that I represented an impediment to David's professional advancement and personal satisfaction. Marcus's legal advice consistently focused on minimizing David's financial obligations, while maximizing his asset retention through strategic timing and procedural manipulation that would prevent me from mounting effective opposition. Their discussions included detailed analysis of community property laws and spousal support calculations that demonstrated thorough preparation for divorce proceedings they intended to initiate on their timeline, using evidence and arguments designed to portray me as the responsible party for our marriage's failure. This approach would potentially reduce David's financial obligations, while providing justification for limited spousal support and accelerated property division. The revelation that David's own business partner was actively facilitating his betrayal added another dimension to the emotional devastation I experienced, while strengthening my determination to expose the full scope of their conspiracy. Marcus Richardson's professional reputation and law firm's credibility would become additional casualties when their unethical collaboration was eventually revealed through the evidence I was systematically collecting. The investigation into David's communication patterns revealed coordination with Linda Whitmore, the human resources director at his firm, who had been manipulating employment records and client assignments to facilitate David and Anastasia's relationship, while providing official justification for their extensive interaction and travel arrangements. Linda's cooperation enabled David to disguise personal expenses as business expenditures, while creating legitimate reasons for Anastasia's presence at client meetings and company events. Linda's involvement demonstrated how institutional resources were being corrupted to support personal agendas that violated professional ethics and potentially exposed the firm to legal liability. Her manipulation of employment documentation and expense reporting created systematic fraud that extended the conspiracy beyond personal relationships into corporate misconduct that could have far-reaching consequences for everyone involved. The email exchanges between Linda and David revealed their shared concern about maintaining appearances while facilitating the relationship's development. Linda's suggestions for creating plausible business justifications for David and Anastasia's activities showed sophisticated understanding of how to exploit corporate policies and procedures to enable personal misconduct without triggering administrative scrutiny. Their correspondence also revealed Linda's personal investment in David and Anastasia's relationship success, apparently motivated by her belief that Anastasia's presence would enhance the firm's professional image and client relationships. Linda's references to my perceived inadequacies as a representative of David's social status demonstrated the calculated cruelty underlying their collective dismissal of my worth and contributions. The discovery of Linda's active participation in facilitating David's betrayal provided additional evidence of conspiracy, while revealing how workplace relationships had been manipulated to enable systematic deception. Her eventual exposure would create professional consequences that extended beyond personal embarrassment into potential career destruction and legal liability. The investigation expanded when I discovered David's coordination with Patricia Kellerman, a real estate agent who had been secretly evaluating our property and developing marketing strategies for its eventual sale. Patricia's involvement revealed that David's intentions included forcing the sale of our family home to access his equity share while eliminating my emotional attachment to the property we had renovated together. Patricia's preliminary market analysis and suggested improvements demonstrated David's intention to maximize property value before initiating divorce proceedings that would require asset division. Her recommendations for staging and presentation strategies indicated planning for property sale that would occur regardless of my preferences or emotional attachment to our family home. The real estate correspondence revealed David's intention to present property sale as financial necessity rather than strategic choice, utilizing market conditions and maintenance costs as justification for decisions that would serve his interests while devastating my emotional stability and housing security. Patricia's cooperation in developing these deceptive narratives demonstrated her willingness to participate in systematic manipulation for professional benefit. Patricia's suggestions for temporary relocation during property preparation aligned suspiciously with Anastasia's timeline for moving into our house, revealing coordination that extended beyond coincidence into active conspiracy. Her professional services were being utilized to facilitate David's personal agenda, while providing legitimate justification for actions that would otherwise appear suspiciously convenient. The evidence of Patricia's involvement in pre-planning property disposition added another dimension to the conspiracy, while providing documentation that would eventually expose her unethical participation in systematic deception designed to disadvantage me during divorce proceedings. The surveillance revealed David's communication with Dr. Margaret Stevenson, a marriage counselor who had been providing him with strategic advice about managing our relationship while pursuing his affair with Anastasia. Dr. Stevenson's guidance focused on maintaining my emotional stability while David prepared for marriage dissolution, utilizing therapeutic techniques to manipulate my perceptions and responses. Dr. Stevenson's correspondence demonstrated professional misconduct that violated therapeutic ethics and potentially exposed her to regulatory discipline and legal liability. Her willingness to provide strategic guidance for deception rather than relationship improvement represented corruption of professional responsibilities that could result in license revocation and career destruction. The therapeutic advice Dr. Stevenson provided included specific suggestions for managing my suspicions while maintaining David's emotional distance, utilizing psychological manipulation techniques to prevent me from developing accurate understanding of our relationship's actual status. Her recommendations for gradual detachment strategies were designed to minimize my emotional resistance while facilitating David's transition to his relationship with Anastasia. The emails between David and Dr. Stevenson revealed her active encouragement of his affair as necessary for his emotional well-being, providing professional justification for behavior that violated marriage vows and ethical commitments. Her characterization of me as emotionally demanding and professionally limiting demonstrated bias that compromised her therapeutic objectivity and professional integrity. Dr. Stevenson's participation in systematic deception through therapeutic manipulation represented particularly egregious professional misconduct that would eventually result in regulatory investigation and potential criminal charges for fraud and emotional abuse. Her involvement demonstrated how professional relationships could be corrupted to serve personal agendas that violated ethical standards and legal requirements. The investigation revealed coordination between David and Thomas Morrison, our financial advisor, who had been providing strategic guidance for asset protection and income concealment that would advantage David during divorce proceedings while limiting my access to accurate financial information. Thomas's advice focused on legal methods for reducing apparent income and asset values to minimize spousal support calculations. Thomas's correspondence demonstrated his willingness to participate in financial manipulation that violated fiduciary responsibilities to both spouses, while prioritizing David's interests over ethical obligations and legal requirements. His suggestions for investment timing and account restructuring were designed to create temporary financial disadvantage that would influence divorce settlements while concealing David's actual financial resources. The financial advisor's recommendations included strategies for characterizing marital assets as business resources that would be excluded from community property division, utilizing corporate structures and investment vehicles to shield wealth from spousal claims. Thomas's expertise was being utilized to systematically disadvantage me through legal but ethically questionable financial manipulation. The evidence of Thomas's participation in asset concealment strategies provided documentation of financial misconduct that would eventually result in regulatory investigation and potential legal action for fiduciary breach and conspiracy to defraud. His involvement demonstrated how professional relationships could be exploited to facilitate systematic disadvantage of unsuspecting spouses. The comprehensive scope of the conspiracy I discovered through systematic investigation revealed that David and Anastasia's plan involved coordination with multiple professional accomplices who were utilizing their expertise and institutional resources to facilitate systematic deception and financial manipulation. Each participant contributed specialized knowledge that enhanced the conspiracy's effectiveness while exposing themselves to professional and legal consequences. The emotional impact of discovering this extensive network of betrayal was profound and devastating, but it also provided crucial insight into the sophisticated preparation that had enabled David and Anastasia's confidence about their plan's success. Their casual arrogance during Anastasia's ultimatum phone call reflected their belief that multiple professional accomplices had created insurmountable advantages that would prevent effective resistance. However, each discovery of additional conspiracy participants provided more evidence for the comprehensive legal case I was building, while revealing additional targets for eventual exposure and accountability. The same professional expertise they had utilized to create advantages would become evidence of systematic misconduct that would result in career destruction and legal liability for everyone involved. The strategic advantage I possessed lay in their complete confidence that their conspiracy remained undetected, while my systematic documentation was creating comprehensive evidence of their coordination and intent. Their assumption that I lacked the sophistication and resources to mount effective opposition had prevented them from implementing adequate security measures to protect their communications and activities. The investigation revealed that David and Anastasia had established specific timelines and procedures for implementing their plan that demonstrated meticulous preparation and coordination. Their schedule included my anticipated emotional breakdown, property disposition, and their public announcement of engagement as carefully orchestrated elements of their strategy for social and professional advancement. The timeline they had developed included specific dates for various phases of my displacement and their relationship's public acknowledgement, revealing their intention to present their union as natural progression rather than the result of systematic betrayal and conspiracy. Their planning demonstrated callous disregard for my emotional well-being, while prioritizing their social reputation and professional image. The detailed coordination I discovered through surveillance provided comprehensive understanding of their strategy, while revealing vulnerabilities that could be exploited during the eventual confrontation. Their confidence in their plan's success had prevented them from developing contingency strategies for potential resistance or exposure. The network of professional accomplices David had assembled represented both the conspiracy's strength and its ultimate weakness. While their coordination provided sophisticated advantages, their involvement created multiple points of potential exposure and legal liability that would eventually ensure comprehensive accountability for their systematic misconduct. The evidence collection phase was reaching completion as the full scope of David and Anastasia's conspiracy became clear through systematic investigation. Their elaborate network of professional accomplices and carefully orchestrated timeline provided the foundation for their confidence, while creating the documentation necessary for their eventual destruction and my ultimate protection. The overwhelming scope of evidence I had accumulated required strategic guidance from someone with extensive experience navigating complex legal battles involving coordinated deception and professional misconduct. Sandra Martinez had provided excellent foundational advice, but the sophisticated conspiracy I had uncovered demanded additional expertise from someone who specialized in exposing elaborate schemes designed to systematically disadvantage unsuspecting victims. My research into high-profile cases involving similar circumstances led me to Eleanor Blackwood, a former federal prosecutor who had transitioned into private practice specializing in complex litigation involving conspiracy, fraud, and professional misconduct. Eleanor's reputation for meticulous case preparation and strategic thinking had resulted in numerous successful outcomes against defendants who believed their elaborate planning and professional resources provided insurmountable advantages. Eleanor's background included extensive experience with cases where multiple professional accomplices had coordinated to facilitate systematic deception, asset concealment, and legal manipulation. Her expertise in exposing sophisticated schemes made her ideally suited to provide guidance for utilizing the evidence I had collected while developing comprehensive strategies for achieving justice and protection. The initial consultation with Eleanor took place at her downtown office, a space that reflected decades of successful litigation through careful attention to detail and strategic preparation. Her immediate assessment of the evidence I presented demonstrated both the comprehensive nature of my documentation and the significant legal exposure facing David and his network of professional accomplices. Eleanor's review of the recorded communications, financial documentation, and surveillance evidence confirmed that I possessed sufficient proof to support multiple legal actions including divorce proceedings, civil conspiracy claims, professional misconduct complaints, and potential criminal referrals. However, her strategic guidance focused on maximizing the impact of this evidence through careful timing and coordinated presentation that would ensure comprehensive accountability. Victoria, you have documented a conspiracy that extends far beyond marital infidelity into systematic professional misconduct involving multiple parties who believed their coordination would prevent detection and accountability, Eleanor explained during our initial meeting. The evidence you have collected provides opportunities for achieving justice that extends beyond personal satisfaction into meaningful consequences for everyone who participated in this elaborate deception. Eleanor's strategic perspective emphasized the importance of understanding the psychological dynamics underlying David and Anastasia's confidence in their plan's success. Their casual arrogance and detailed planning reflected their belief that my emotional devastation would prevent effective resistance, while their professional accomplices would provide insurmountable advantages during any legal proceedings. Sophisticated conspiracies often fail because the participants become overconfident in their planning while underestimating their victims' capabilities and determination, Eleanor continued. David and Anastasia have created extensive evidence of their coordination, while assuming that your emotional attachment and financial dependence would ensure compliance with their demands. The strategic framework Eleanor recommended involved allowing David and Anastasia to continue implementing their plan while documenting their actions and communications, until they had committed themselves completely to their chosen course. This approach would provide maximum evidence, while demonstrating the calculated nature of their deception to any legal proceedings that would follow. Eleanor's guidance addressed the psychological preparation necessary for maintaining strategic thinking during emotionally challenging circumstances. Her experience with victims of sophisticated deception had demonstrated that successful outcomes required balancing emotional processing with systematic strategic implementation that prioritized long-term justice over immediate emotional satisfaction. Your transformation from betrayed spouse into strategic opponent represents exactly the evolution necessary for achieving meaningful justice, Eleanor observed. The same attention to detail and systematic thinking that enabled your evidence collection will serve you well during the confrontation and legal proceedings that will follow. The timing considerations Eleanor outlined required careful balance between allowing sufficient documentation of David and Anastasia's activities while preventing actual damage to my interests or family stability. Their timeline for implementing displacement plans provided specific deadlines that would determine optimal moments for revelation and legal action. Eleanor's assessment of the professional accomplices involved in the conspiracy emphasized the significant consequences they faced through their willing participation in systematic deception and professional misconduct. Each participant had violated ethical standards and legal requirements that would result in career destruction and potential criminal liability when their coordination was eventually exposed. Marcus Richardson's utilization of attorney-client privilege to facilitate asset concealment represents particularly egregious misconduct that will result in disbarment and potential criminal charges, Eleanor explained. His law firm's reputation and client relationships will be devastated when their resources are revealed to have been utilized for systematic fraud and conspiracy. Quote, "The analysis of Linda Whitmore's employment manipulation demonstrated violations of corporate governance and fiduciary responsibility that would expose David's firm to significant legal liability, while ending Linda's career in human resources management. Her systematic falsification of records and expense reports created documentary evidence of fraud that would be impossible to dispute or minimize." Eleanor's evaluation of Dr. Margaret Stevenson's therapeutic manipulation emphasized the severity of professional misconduct that violated fundamental ethical standards governing therapeutic relationships. Her participation in systematic deception through psychological manipulation would result in license revocation and potential criminal charges for abuse and fraud. Professional accomplices often believe their specialized knowledge provides protection from accountability, but their expertise actually increases their legal exposure through enhanced standards of professional responsibility, Eleanor noted. Each participant's violation of professional ethics will result in consequences that extend far beyond personal embarrassment into career destruction and financial liability. The strategic guidance Eleanor provided included specific recommendations for presenting evidence in ways that would maximize legal impact while ensuring comprehensive accountability for all conspiracy participants. Her approach emphasized the importance of demonstrating coordination and intent through systematic presentation that would prevent individual accomplices from minimizing their participation or shifting responsibility to other parties. Eleanor's experience with similar cases had demonstrated that successful outcomes required comprehensive preparation that anticipated potential defense strategies, while maintaining strategic advantages through careful control of information, revelation, and timing. Her guidance focused on utilizing my evidence collection capabilities to continue gathering documentation until the optimal moment for coordinated action. Your systematic approach to evidence collection has created significant strategic advantages that David and Anastasia remain unaware of possessing, Eleanor emphasized. Their continued confidence in their plan's success will provide additional opportunities for documentation, while ensuring they commit themselves completely to actions that will result in their comprehensive exposure. The psychological preparation Eleanor recommended involved developing emotional resilience and strategic focus that would enable effective performance during high-stress confrontations and legal proceedings. Her experience had shown that victims who maintained strategic thinking during emotionally challenging circumstances achieved significantly better outcomes than those who allowed emotional responses to dictate their actions. Eleanor's guidance addressed the importance of maintaining perspective about long-term objectives while managing immediate emotional challenges. The comprehensive justice available through coordinated legal action would provide more meaningful satisfaction than emotional confrontations that might compromise strategic advantages or legal positioning. Your evidence collection has revealed systematic misconduct that extends far beyond personal betrayal into professional conspiracy that demands comprehensive accountability, Eleanor explained. The justice available through strategic legal action will ensure that David and Anastasia's elaborate planning becomes the foundation for their complete destruction rather than their anticipated success. The mentorship Eleanor provided extended beyond tactical guidance into strategic wisdom about utilizing adversity as motivation for achieving outcomes that would otherwise be impossible. Her perspective emphasized that sophisticated betrayals often created opportunities for justice that exceeded what victims initially believed possible. Eleanor's experience had demonstrated that victims who transformed emotional devastation into strategic determination achieved outcomes that not only protected their interests, but created meaningful consequences for those who had attempted to destroy them. The key lay in channeling emotional energy into systematic action that prioritized comprehensive justice over immediate satisfaction. Victoria, your transformation from unsuspecting victim into strategic opponent represents exactly the evolution necessary for achieving justice that extends beyond personal protection into meaningful accountability for systematic misconduct, Eleanor observed. Your evidence collection has created opportunities for comprehensive legal action that will ensure David and Anastasia's elaborate conspiracy becomes their ultimate downfall. The strategic timeline Eleanor recommended involved continued documentation until David and Anastasia had implemented their displacement plans sufficiently to demonstrate complete commitment to their chosen course. This approach would provide maximum evidence while ensuring they could not retreat from actions that would result in their comprehensive exposure and accountability. Eleanor's guidance emphasized the importance of maintaining strategic focus during emotionally challenging periods, while building toward coordinated action that would achieve comprehensive justice. Her mentorship provided both tactical expertise and psychological support necessary for navigating complex legal proceedings involving multiple defendants and extensive evidence. The wisdom Eleanor shared reflected decades of experience with cases where systematic preparation and strategic thinking had enabled victims to achieve justice against opponents who believed their sophistication and resources provided insurmountable advantages. Her guidance demonstrated that careful planning and comprehensive evidence collection could overcome even elaborate conspiracies involving multiple professional accomplices. Eleanor's mentorship also addressed the broader implications of achieving justice in cases involving systematic professional misconduct. Successful outcomes created precedents that protected other potential victims, while establishing accountability standards that deterred similar conspiracies in professional settings. Your case represents an opportunity to achieve justice that extends beyond personal protection into meaningful consequences for systematic professional misconduct, Eleanor concluded. The evidence you have collected will ensure that David and Anastasia's elaborate conspiracy becomes a cautionary tale about the ultimate futility of sophisticated deception when confronted by strategic determination and comprehensive preparation. The strategic framework Eleanor provided transformed my approach from reactive evidence collection into proactive strategic preparation for coordinated legal action that would achieve comprehensive accountability. Her guidance demonstrated how systematic thinking and careful planning could convert apparent disadvantage into decisive strategic advantage. Eleanor's wisdom emphasized that the most effective justice often emerged through patient strategic preparation rather than immediate emotional confrontation. The comprehensive legal action her guidance would enable would create more meaningful consequences than any emotional satisfaction available through premature revelation or confrontation. The mentorship relationship with Eleanor provided not only tactical expertise, but also psychological support necessary for maintaining strategic focus during emotionally challenging circumstances. Her experience and wisdom created confidence that the evidence I had collected would ultimately ensure justice and protection that exceeded what David and Anastasia believed possible. Eleanor's strategic guidance had transformed my approach from reactive documentation into systematic implementation of coordinated actions designed to strengthen my position while maintaining the appearance of normalcy. The first strategic victory emerged through implementing her recommendation to secure our joint financial assets through legal mechanisms that would prevent David from executing unauthorized transfers or property dispositions. Working with Sandra Martinez, I initiated discrete legal procedures to establish protective orders on our primary bank accounts, investment portfolios, and property titles. These actions required demonstrating legitimate concern about potential financial misconduct without revealing the comprehensive evidence I had collected about David's conspiracy. The legal filings positioned protective measures as precautionary rather than adversarial, maintaining strategic advantage while securing crucial assets. The success of these initial protective measures provided immediate confidence that strategic thinking and proper legal guidance could effectively counter David's elaborate planning. His attempts to transfer additional funds from our joint accounts were blocked by court orders he remained unaware of possessing, creating confusion about banking procedures that prevented him from recognizing my active intervention. David's frustration with unexpected banking difficulties provided valuable insight into his timeline pressures and financial requirements for implementing his displacement plan. His increasingly urgent communications with Marcus Richardson about accessing funds revealed specific deadlines that aligned with Anastasia's intended move-in date, demonstrating their coordination while exposing vulnerabilities in their strategic planning. The second strategic victory involved implementing Eleanor's guidance about establishing independent financial resources and professional capabilities that would ensure my security regardless of how divorce proceedings developed. My return to professional graphic design work through freelance projects provided both immediate income and renewed confidence in my capabilities outside the domestic role I had prioritized during our marriage. The creative projects I undertook required utilizing skills and knowledge that had remained dormant during years of focusing on family responsibilities and supporting David's career advancement. The successful completion of initial assignments demonstrated that my professional abilities remained sharp and marketable, providing psychological benefits that extended beyond financial considerations. Client feedback about my design work confirmed that my creative vision and technical execution met current industry standards despite my extended absence from professional practice. These validations strengthened my confidence about achieving financial independence, while reducing emotional dependence on the marriage relationship that David was systematically destroying. The professional reconnections I established through freelance work created opportunities for expanded business development and potential full-time employment that would provide long-term financial security. Former colleagues expressed genuine enthusiasm about my return to active practice, while offering collaboration opportunities that could accelerate my professional reestablishment. The third strategic achievement involved implementing surveillance enhancements that provided real-time intelligence about David and Anastasia's activities, while ensuring comprehensive documentation of their continued coordination. Eleanor's guidance about evidence standards for legal proceedings required capturing not only their communications but also their actions and timeline implementation. The enhanced surveillance revealed David's coordination with real estate agent Patricia Kellerman about scheduling property evaluations and staging consultations that aligned with his intended timeline for forcing our home's sale. Their communications demonstrated specific planning for property disposition that occurred without my knowledge or consent, providing additional evidence of systematic deception and financial manipulation. Patricia's suggestions for temporary relocation during property preparation corresponded precisely with Anastasia's anticipated move-in schedule, confirming coordination that extended beyond coincidence into active conspiracy. Her professional services were being utilized to facilitate David's personal agenda while providing legitimate justification for actions designed to eliminate my housing security and emotional stability. The surveillance documentation captured David's meetings with Dr. Margaret Stevenson, where their discussions focused on managing my anticipated emotional responses to discovering their affair and displacement plan. Dr. Stevenson's advice centered on psychological manipulation techniques designed to minimize my resistance while facilitating David's transition to his relationship with Anastasia. These therapeutic consultations violated fundamental ethical standards governing professional responsibility and patient welfare. Dr. Stevenson's willingness to provide strategic guidance for systematic deception rather than genuine relationship counseling represented professional misconduct that would result in regulatory discipline and potential criminal liability. The fourth strategic success emerged through implementing Eleanor's recommendation to establish secure communication channels and documentation storage that would protect crucial evidence from potential discovery or destruction. The comprehensive nature of my evidence collection required sophisticated security measures to ensure information integrity and accessibility during legal proceedings. The secure storage systems I established included cloud-based backup procedures, encrypted file management, and distributed access points that would prevent evidence loss regardless of potential interference from David or his accomplices. These protective measures ensured that months of systematic documentation would remain available for legal presentation, despite any attempts to compromise my information systems. The security protocols also included establishing communication methods with Eleanor and Sandra that would maintain confidentiality while enabling strategic coordination as circumstances developed. These channels provided ongoing support and guidance while ensuring that legal advice remained protected through attorney-client privilege and professional confidentiality requirements. The implementation of comprehensive security measures demonstrated strategic sophistication that exceeded David's expectations about my capabilities and resources. His assumption that I lacked the knowledge and determination necessary for mounting effective opposition had prevented him from anticipating the systematic preparation I was conducting under professional guidance. The fifth strategic achievement involved developing relationships with key witnesses who could provide crucial testimony about David's behavioral changes, financial irregularities, and coordination with Anastasia during the period when their conspiracy was developing. Eleanor's guidance emphasized the importance of witness testimony for corroborating documentary evidence and establishing timeline credibility. Conversations with neighbors who had observed unusual activity patterns at our house revealed specific incidents when Anastasia had visited during my absence, examining our property and discussing potential modifications with contractors and service providers. These observations provided independent verification of her presumptuous behavior while documenting her assumption of authority over my home. Discussions with Emma and Michael about their father's changing priorities and reduced family involvement provided additional perspective about the timeline when David's attention shifted toward external interests that he refused to discuss openly. Their observations about his distraction and emotional distance corroborated my documented evidence while establishing the impact his deception had created for our entire family. Professional contacts who had interacted with David during client meetings and industry events provided insights about his increasingly frequent references to Anastasia and their collaborative relationship. These observations demonstrated how David had been publicly positioning Anastasia as his professional partner while maintaining the pretense of commitment to our marriage and family. The sixth strategic victory involved implementing Eleanor's guidance about psychological preparation for maintaining strategic focus during emotionally challenging circumstances. The comprehensive nature of David's betrayal and the sophisticated coordination involved in his conspiracy created emotional challenges that could potentially compromise my strategic effectiveness if not properly managed. The psychological preparation included developing emotional regulation techniques that would enable clear thinking during high-stress situations, while maintaining strategic perspective about long-term objectives rather than immediate emotional responses. Eleanor's experience had demonstrated that successful outcomes required balancing emotional processing with systematic strategic implementation. Regular consultation sessions with a therapist who specialized in supporting victims of sophisticated deception provided professional guidance for managing the complex emotions associated with discovering systematic betrayal while preparing for legal confrontation. These sessions enhanced my emotional resilience while ensuring that strategic planning remained grounded in realistic assessment rather than emotional reactions. The therapeutic support also addressed the broader implications of transforming from betrayed spouse into strategic opponent, helping me understand how this evolution represented necessary adaptation rather than fundamental character change. The same nurturing instincts that had motivated years of family devotion could be redirected toward protecting my interests and ensuring justice for systematic deception. The seventh strategic success emerged through implementing sophisticated financial analysis that revealed the complete scope of David's asset concealment and income manipulation. Eleanor's guidance about forensic accounting principles enabled comprehensive examination of our financial records that exposed systematic deception extending back more than 18 months. The financial investigation revealed sophisticated strategies for reducing apparent income and asset values through business expense manipulation, investment timing, and account restructuring designed to minimize spousal support calculations during divorce proceedings. David's coordination with financial advisor Thomas Morrison had created temporary financial disadvantages that would influence settlement negotiations while concealing his actual financial resources. The forensic analysis also uncovered evidence of systematic expense reimbursement fraud where David had been claiming personal expenditures related to his affair as legitimate business expenses. The documentation provided clear evidence of corporate fraud that would expose his firm to legal liability while creating potential criminal charges for systematic theft and deception. These financial discoveries demonstrated that David's conspiracy extended beyond personal betrayal into systematic financial manipulation that violated legal requirements and ethical standards. The evidence would support civil actions for fraud and breach of fiduciary duty, while providing grounds for criminal referrals that could result in prosecution and incarceration. The eighth strategic achievement involved developing comprehensive contingency planning that would ensure effective response, regardless of how David and Anastasia's timeline developed or what defensive strategies they might implement when their conspiracy was eventually exposed. Eleanor's guidance emphasized the importance of anticipating multiple scenarios while maintaining strategic flexibility. The contingency planning included procedures for immediate asset protection if David attempted accelerated financial manipulation, communication protocols for coordinating with legal counsel during crisis situations, and evidence presentation strategies that would maximize impact regardless of specific circumstances that might develop. These preparations also included developing support systems that would provide emotional and practical assistance during the challenging period when legal confrontation would occur. The network of professional and personal resources I had established would ensure comprehensive support while maintaining focus on achieving justice and protection. The strategic victories I achieved through implementing Eleanor's guidance created momentum and confidence that transformed my psychological perspective from defensive positioning into proactive strategic advancement. Each successful implementation of recommended actions demonstrated that systematic thinking and proper preparation could effectively counter even sophisticated conspiracies involving multiple professional accomplices. The growing confidence I experienced reflected not only successful strategic implementation, but also the recognition that my capabilities and determination exceeded what David had anticipated when he developed his elaborate displacement plan. His assumption about my emotional vulnerability and strategic limitations had become fundamental miscalculations that would ultimately ensure his complete defeat. The transformation I experienced during this period extended beyond tactical preparation into comprehensive personal development that would provide benefits regardless of specific legal outcomes. The strategic thinking skills, professional relationships, and emotional resilience I had developed would serve future goals while ensuring that David's betrayal would ultimately strengthen rather than destroy my capabilities and prospects. The systematic victories I achieved through Eleanor's guidance demonstrated that apparent disadvantage could be converted into decisive strategic advantage through proper preparation and professional support. The evidence I had collected and the resources I had developed would ensure that David and Anastasia's elaborate conspiracy would become the foundation for their comprehensive accountability rather than their anticipated success. The strategic momentum I had built through successful implementation of Eleanor's guidance encountered its first significant obstacle when David announced an unexpected business trip that would require his immediate departure for 2 weeks in Chicago. The timing of this announcement coincided suspiciously with several developments that suggested my protective measures had created complications for his planned timeline. David's explanation for the Chicago trip focused on urgent client needs and project deadlines that required his personal attention for extended contract negotiations. However, surveillance intelligence revealed that the supposed business emergency was actually coordinated with Anastasia, who had simultaneously arranged vacation time from the firm to accompany him on what was essentially a romantic getaway disguised as professional travel. The challenge this development presented extended beyond the immediate deception into potential complications for my evidence collection and strategic positioning. David's absence would eliminate opportunities for documenting his local activities and communications, while potentially providing him with secure environments for planning countermeasures if he had begun to suspect my awareness of his conspiracy. More concerning was the possibility that David's departure represented preparation for permanent relocation rather than temporary travel. The comprehensive financial transfers and asset positioning he had implemented could facilitate establishing residence in Chicago while abandoning our family and his local business obligations. This scenario would require immediate legal intervention to prevent asset flight and ensure his continued accountability under local jurisdiction. Eleanor's emergency consultation regarding this development emphasized the critical nature of maintaining strategic positioning while adapting to unexpected circumstances that could potentially compromise months of systematic preparation. Her experience with similar cases had demonstrated that sophisticated conspirators often implemented sudden timeline changes when they detected potential resistance or exposure. The strategic response Eleanor recommended involved accelerated implementation of evidence preservation and legal positioning that would ensure comprehensive protection regardless of David's actual intentions for the Chicago trip. This approach required immediate coordination between multiple legal mechanisms while maintaining the appearance of normalcy to prevent alerting David to my strategic intervention. The first component of our emergency response involved filing comprehensive legal motions that would prevent asset transfer or property disposition during David's absence while establishing court jurisdiction over all marital resources. These filings required demonstrating immediate risk of financial harm without revealing the complete scope of evidence I had collected about his conspiracy. Sandra Martinez coordinated the legal filings with exceptional efficiency, utilizing temporary restraining order procedures that could be implemented immediately while providing foundation for more comprehensive legal action upon David's return. The court orders would prevent financial transactions and property changes while creating legal requirements for disclosure that would expose any attempts at asset concealment. The legal positioning also included establishing custody protections that would prevent David from relocating our children or limiting my parental access during his absence. While Emma and Michael were approaching adulthood, their emotional security and educational stability required protection from potential disruption created by David's increasingly erratic behavior and priorities. The second component involved accelerated evidence preservation through comprehensive documentation storage and witness statement collection that would ensure crucial information remained available regardless of potential interference during David's absence. Eleanor's guidance emphasized the importance of securing evidence immediately when circumstances suggested possible timeline compression. This preservation process required coordinating with technical specialists who could ensure surveillance data integrity and accessibility through multiple backup systems that would prevent evidence loss or tampering. The comprehensive nature of my documentation demanded sophisticated security measures that exceeded standard personal data protection protocols. The witness statement collection involved formal interviews with neighbors, colleagues, and service providers who had observed David's behavioral changes and Anastasia's presumptuous activities at our property. These statements required legal documentation procedures that would ensure admissibility during future court proceedings while providing independent corroboration of my surveillance evidence. The third challenge component emerged when David's departure preparations revealed additional coordination with his network of professional accomplices that suggested the Chicago trip represented acceleration of their overall conspiracy timeline rather than simple romantic escape. His communications with Marcus Richardson, Linda Whitmore, and Thomas Morrison increased significantly during the days preceding his departure. The intensified coordination suggested that David's absence would provide opportunity for implementing strategic maneuvers that required his physical separation from local oversight and potential legal intervention. This possibility demanded enhanced surveillance of his accomplices' activities while maintaining protective measures that would prevent unauthorized actions during his absence. Eleanor's analysis of this development emphasized the strategic advantage my preparation had created despite the unexpected timeline pressure. David's forced acceleration of his conspiracy timeline would compress his decision-making while potentially creating mistakes and oversights that would strengthen my evidence collection and legal positioning. The fourth challenge dimension involved managing the psychological pressure created by timeline uncertainty and potential confrontation acceleration. The systematic preparation I had implemented required continued strategic focus, despite emotional stress created by David's increasingly bold deception and the possibility that peaceful resolution might no longer be achievable. The psychological preparation I had developed through therapeutic consultation provided essential foundation for maintaining strategic effectiveness during this crisis period. The emotional regulation techniques and strategic perspective I had cultivated enabled clear thinking despite the uncertainty and pressure created by David's unexpected maneuvers. Eleanor's guidance about crisis management emphasized the importance of maintaining strategic focus while adapting tactical approaches to changing circumstances. The comprehensive preparation I had implemented provided multiple options for responding to David's actions while ensuring protection, regardless of how his conspiracy developed. The crisis management also required coordination with Emma and Michael to ensure their emotional security and practical needs remained protected, despite the increasing tension and uncertainty surrounding their father's behavior. Their awareness of family problems had been growing, but they remained unaware of the comprehensive conspiracy that threatened our family's stability and future. The fifth challenge element involved discovering that David's Chicago trip coordination included planning for Anastasia's potential permanent relocation to establish their relationship in a new geographic location, where their affairs history would be unknown to professional contacts and social networks. This development suggested intentions that extended beyond ending our marriage into complete geographical separation from accountability. The surveillance intelligence revealed that Anastasia had been researching employment opportunities in Chicago, while coordinating with real estate agents about apartment rentals and potential property purchases. Their planning suggested establishment of shared residence that would facilitate relationship advancement, while eliminating exposure to local social and professional consequences. This geographic relocation strategy would complicate legal proceedings, while potentially providing David with arguments about business necessity and career advancement that could influence custody arrangements and financial obligations. This strategic challenge required immediate legal positioning that would prevent geographic advantage while ensuring continued jurisdiction over marital assets and family responsibilities. Eleanor's guidance about multi-jurisdictional legal challenges emphasized the importance of establishing comprehensive protective measures before David could implement relocation strategies that would complicate enforcement and accountability procedures. The legal mechanisms available required immediate implementation to maintain strategic advantage. The sixth challenge component emerged through intelligence that David's business partner Marcus Richardson was coordinating with Chicago legal counsel to establish strategic advantages for potential divorce proceedings in Illinois jurisdiction, where different community property laws and spousal support calculations might provide financial benefits. This jurisdictional shopping represented sophisticated legal strategy that demonstrated the extent of professional coordination involved in David's conspiracy. Marcus's utilization of interstate legal networks suggested preparation for extended litigation that would require comprehensive resources and strategic planning to counter effectively. The discovery of interstate legal coordination required immediate consultation with Eleanor about federal implications and multi-jurisdictional enforcement mechanisms that would ensure comprehensive accountability regardless of geographic complications David might attempt to create. The legal positioning this development demanded involved establishing federal court jurisdiction over potential conspiracy and fraud claims that would supersede state-level divorce proceedings, while ensuring comprehensive asset protection and accountability enforcement. The seventh challenge dimension involved the emotional impact on Emma and Michael as they began recognizing the scope of deception and family disruption their father's behavior was creating. Their questions about family stability and future security required careful balance between honest communication and protection from adult relationship complexities. The psychological preparation this family crisis demanded required developing age-appropriate explanations that would prepare them for potential changes, while maintaining their emotional security and relationships with both parents. Eleanor's guidance emphasized the importance of protecting children from strategic details while ensuring their practical needs remained prioritized. The family communication strategy I implemented focused on reassuring Emma and Michael about their continued security and support, while preparing them for potential changes in living arrangements and family structure. Their emotional well-being remained paramount despite the strategic challenges created by David's accelerating conspiracy. The eighth challenge component involved maintaining professional obligations and client commitments, despite the comprehensive demands of crisis management and accelerated legal preparation. The freelance design work I had re-established provided crucial financial independence, but required continued attention, despite the emotional and practical pressures created by David's actions. The professional management this situation demanded involved coordinating project timelines and client communications to ensure continued income flow, while maintaining reputation and business relationships that would provide long-term security. Eleanor's guidance emphasized the importance of protecting professional advancement despite personal crisis circumstances. The strategic response to these multiple challenge dimensions required comprehensive coordination between legal, financial, and personal management systems, while maintaining focus on long-term objectives despite immediate pressure and uncertainty. The systematic preparation I had implemented provided foundation for effective crisis response while ensuring continued strategic advantage. Eleanor's guidance throughout this crisis period demonstrated how comprehensive preparation could provide stability and strategic options during unexpected developments that might otherwise create overwhelming disadvantage. The challenges David's actions created ultimately strengthened my position by forcing acceleration of legal positioning that would provide enhanced protection and accountability mechanisms. The resolution of this first major challenge required utilizing every aspect of the strategic framework Eleanor had provided, while demonstrating that systematic preparation and professional guidance could overcome sophisticated opposition, even when circumstances required rapid adaptation and compressed decision-making timelines. The crisis precipitated by David's unexpected Chicago departure demanded immediate implementation of comprehensive documentation protocols that would preserve crucial evidence while establishing unassailable legal foundations for the confrontation that could no longer be postponed indefinitely. Eleanor's guidance during this critical period emphasized that systematic evidence preservation represented the difference between achieving justice and watching sophisticated conspirators escape accountability through procedural advantages. The documentation process required transforming months of surveillance intelligence and financial analysis into legally admissible evidence that would withstand aggressive defense strategies while demonstrating the coordinated nature of David's conspiracy with absolute clarity. This transformation demanded technical expertise, legal precision, and strategic organization that exceeded typical divorce proceeding requirements. Working with specialized forensic accountants recommended by Eleanor, I initiated comprehensive financial analysis that revealed the complete scope of David's asset manipulation and income concealment strategies. The forensic examination uncovered sophisticated financial structures that Thomas Morrison had implemented to reduce apparent marital assets while positioning David's resources for maximum protection during divorce proceedings. The forensic analysis revealed systematic manipulation of business expense categories that had enabled David to disguise personal expenditures related to his affair as legitimate professional costs. Restaurant charges, hotel accommodations, jewelry purchases, and travel expenses had been systematically reclassified through corporate accounting procedures that violated both tax regulations and fiduciary responsibilities to business partners and shareholders. The documentation process uncovered evidence of coordinated timing between David's expense manipulation and Anastasia's compensation adjustments that suggested systematic abuse of corporate resources to fund their relationship while concealing the financial impact from business oversight and potential legal scrutiny. This coordination demonstrated conspiracy that extended beyond personal betrayal into corporate fraud with significant legal implications. The forensic accountants identified patterns of income timing and investment manipulation that created temporary financial disadvantage designed to influence spousal support calculations during divorce proceedings. David's coordination with Thomas Morrison had involved strategic realization of losses and deferral of income that would minimize apparent resources while concealing his actual financial capacity. These financial manipulation strategies violated fiduciary responsibilities and potentially constituted criminal fraud through systematic misrepresentation of financial status for legal proceedings. The evidence provided foundation for criminal referrals while supporting civil claims for breach of fiduciary duty and conspiracy to defraud marital assets. The technical documentation process required implementing sophisticated data analysis procedures that could demonstrate patterns and coordination across multiple communication channels and financial systems. Specialized software applications enabled comprehensive timeline analysis that revealed correlation between David's communications with conspirators and subsequent implementation of strategic maneuvers. The timeline analysis demonstrated systematic coordination between David's discussions with Marcus Richardson about legal strategy and subsequent financial transactions that supported those strategic objectives. The temporal correlation provided compelling evidence of conspiracy that would be difficult to dispute through alternative explanations or coincidence arguments. Communication analysis revealed sophisticated coordination between David's travel schedules and Anastasia's availability that extended far beyond professional requirements or casual personal interaction. The pattern demonstrated systematic planning for personal encounters that were disguised as business activities while utilizing corporate resources for personal benefit. The analysis also uncovered coordination between David's communications with Dr. Margaret Stevenson about managing my emotional responses and subsequent implementation of manipulation tactics during our personal interactions. This evidence demonstrated systematic psychological abuse that violated professional ethics while supporting claims for emotional distress and intentional infliction of harm. Professional witness preparation required coordinating with industry experts who could provide context and interpretation for the sophisticated financial manipulation and professional misconduct that David's conspiracy had involved. These experts would provide crucial testimony about standard practices and ethical requirements that David and his accomplices had systematically violated. The expert witness preparation included forensic accountants who could explain the technical aspects of asset concealment and income manipulation to legal proceedings, while demonstrating how these strategies violated professional standards and legal requirements. Their testimony would provide foundation for both civil and criminal legal action. Legal ethics experts would provide testimony about the professional misconduct involved in Marcus Richardson's utilization of attorney-client privilege to facilitate systematic fraud and asset concealment. Their analysis would demonstrate how his actions violated fundamental principles of legal practice, while exposing his law firm to disciplinary action and civil liability. Psychological experts would provide testimony about the systematic emotional abuse involved in Dr. Margaret Stevenson's coordination with David to manipulate my perceptions and responses through therapeutic techniques. Their analysis would establish professional misconduct while supporting claims for emotional distress and psychological damage. The witness coordination process also involved preparing testimony from neighbors, colleagues, and service providers who had observed the behavioral changes and coordination between David and Anastasia that supported the timeline and intent documented through surveillance and financial analysis. Their observations would provide independent corroboration that strengthened the comprehensive evidence presentation. Property documentation required comprehensive analysis of real estate manipulation and potential disposition planning that Patricia Kellerman had coordinated with David. The evidence revealed systematic preparation for forced property sale that would maximize David's equity access, while eliminating my housing security and emotional attachment to our family home. The real estate analysis demonstrated coordination between property evaluation timing and David's financial planning that suggested systematic preparation for asset liquidation that would occur regardless of my preferences or the emotional impact on our family. This coordination provided evidence of calculated planning that prioritized David's financial advantage over family stability. Documentation of Patricia's communications revealed her awareness of the deceptive nature of her coordination with David, while demonstrating her willingness to participate in systematic manipulation for professional benefit. Her involvement created professional liability while providing additional evidence of conspiracy coordination. The property protection measures implemented through legal counsel established comprehensive safeguards that would prevent unauthorized disposition or modification during the period when confrontation and legal proceedings would occur. These protections ensured that David's coordination with Patricia could not result in actual property loss, regardless of his strategic timeline. International coordination became necessary when surveillance revealed that David's Chicago activities included consultation with financial advisors about offshore account establishment and potential asset transfer to jurisdictions that would complicate legal enforcement and asset recovery. This development required immediate coordination with federal authorities and international legal specialists. The offshore investigation revealed coordination between David and sophisticated financial planning specialists, who provided services for high-net-worth individuals seeking asset protection from potential legal claims. Their involvement demonstrated David's intention to position resources beyond the reach of divorce proceedings while maintaining access for personal use. Federal coordination became essential when evidence suggested potential violation of currency reporting requirements and international financial disclosure regulations. The scope of David's asset protection planning potentially involved criminal violations that required coordination with federal investigative agencies and international enforcement mechanisms. The international implications of David's financial planning required coordination with legal specialists who possessed expertise in multi-jurisdictional asset recovery and enforcement procedures. Eleanor's network of professional contacts provided access to resources that could address sophisticated asset concealment strategies regardless of geographic complexity. Psychological preparation during this intensive documentation period required maintaining strategic focus, while managing the emotional impact of discovering the comprehensive scope of David's deception and betrayal. The systematic revelation of his elaborate planning demonstrated callous disregard for our family that exceeded anything I had initially imagined possible. The emotional processing required for maintaining effectiveness during this period involved recognizing that David's sophisticated planning reflected fundamental character defects rather than response to marital problems or personal circumstances. His systematic coordination with multiple accomplices demonstrated calculated cruelty that justified comprehensive legal response without consideration for his potential consequences. The psychological support provided through professional counseling enabled continued strategic thinking, while processing the grief associated with recognizing that the marriage I had believed we shared had been systematically destroyed through elaborate deception extending back many months. This recognition provided closure while strengthening determination for achieving justice. The therapeutic guidance also addressed the broader implications of transformation from devoted spouse into strategic opponent, emphasizing that this evolution represented necessary adaptation rather than fundamental character change. The same protective instincts that had motivated years of family devotion could be appropriately redirected toward ensuring justice and accountability. Technology security implementation required coordination with cybersecurity specialists who could ensure comprehensive protection for the extensive digital evidence I had collected, while preventing potential interference or destruction through electronic sabotage. The sophisticated nature of David's conspiracy suggested potential technical capabilities that demanded advanced protective measures. The security analysis revealed potential vulnerabilities in standard data protection procedures that sophisticated opponents might exploit to compromise evidence integrity or accessibility. The protective measures implemented exceeded typical personal data security through enterprise-level protocols that would ensure evidence preservation regardless of potential technical attacks. Backup and redundancy systems ensured that crucial evidence remained accessible through multiple independent channels that would prevent loss or compromise regardless of circumstances that might develop during legal proceedings. The comprehensive nature of evidence protection exceeded typical litigation requirements through anticipation of sophisticated opposition strategies. The security implementation also included communication protocols that would maintain confidentiality while enabling strategic coordination with legal counsel and expert witnesses. These procedures ensured that sensitive information remained protected while facilitating effective legal presentation and strategic planning. Strategic timeline coordination required balancing multiple competing requirements including evidence preservation, legal positioning, family protection, and professional obligations, while maintaining the strategic advantage created through comprehensive preparation. Eleanor's guidance emphasized that successful outcomes required systematic coordination rather than reactive responses to developing circumstances. The timeline management involved coordination between accelerated legal filings and evidence preservation procedures that would establish comprehensive protection before David could implement countermeasures or geographic relocation strategies. This coordination required precise timing to maximize strategic advantage while ensuring procedural compliance. Family protection measures required implementing safeguards that would ensure Emma and Michael's emotional security and practical needs remained prioritized, despite the increasing complexity and intensity of legal proceedings. Their well-being remained paramount regardless of strategic considerations or legal requirements. Professional obligation management required coordinating client commitments and business development activities with the comprehensive demands of evidence preparation and legal positioning. The financial independence my freelance work provided remained crucial for long-term security, while demonstrating capability and determination that exceeded David's expectations. The comprehensive documentation and preparation process demonstrated how systematic thinking and professional guidance could transform apparent disadvantage into decisive strategic advantage through methodical evidence collection and legal positioning. The months of patient preparation had created an unassailable foundation for achieving justice regardless of David's sophisticated opposition strategies. The strategic framework Eleanor had provided enabled effective coordination of complex requirements, while maintaining focus on long-term objectives, despite immediate pressure and emotional challenges. The documentation process had revealed the complete scope of David's conspiracy while establishing comprehensive foundation for accountability and protection that would ensure justice regardless of how circumstances developed. The comprehensive evidence collection process had revealed the necessity of building strategic alliances with individuals who possess specialized knowledge, professional connections, and moral conviction necessary for achieving accountability against David's sophisticated conspiracy. Eleanor's guidance emphasized that complex legal battles required coordinated support from multiple parties who could provide essential testimony, professional expertise, and strategic resources that would ensure comprehensive justice. The first crucial alliance emerged through connection with Rebecca Chen, a senior partner at Morrison & Associates, who had discovered Thomas Morrison's systematic abuse of client trust accounts and professional responsibilities. Rebecca's position within the firm provided her with detailed knowledge of Thomas's financial manipulation strategies, while creating professional obligation to report misconduct that violated regulatory requirements and client fiduciary duties. Rebecca's initial contact arose from her recognition that Thomas's coordination with David involved potential criminal violations that extended beyond internal disciplinary measures into regulatory reporting requirements and criminal referral obligations. Her professional integrity and commitment to ethical standards motivated her cooperation, despite potential complications for her firm's reputation and client relationships. The intelligence Rebecca provided revealed systematic patterns of financial manipulation that Thomas had implemented for multiple clients seeking asset protection from potential legal claims. His coordination with David represented part of broader misconduct that violated fundamental principles of financial advisory relationships while exposing clients to legal liability through fraudulent asset concealment strategies. Rebecca's testimony would provide crucial insider perspective about the sophisticated financial manipulation techniques David had utilized, while demonstrating the systematic nature of professional misconduct that extended beyond individual ethical violations into criminal conspiracy. Her cooperation ensured that Thomas's eventual accountability would include comprehensive regulatory discipline and potential criminal prosecution. The professional support Rebecca offered included access to internal documentation that revealed the complete scope of Thomas's coordination with David, while providing expert analysis of financial manipulation strategies that would strengthen forensic accounting evidence. Her willingness to testify demonstrated courage that inspired confidence about achieving comprehensive accountability. The second strategic alliance developed through coordination with Jennifer Walsh, a former colleague of Linda Whitmore who had discovered systematic employment record manipulation and expense reporting fraud within David's architectural firm. Jennifer's position in human resources management provided her with detailed understanding of corporate governance violations, while creating professional responsibility to report misconduct that exposed the firm to legal liability. Jennifer's cooperation arose from her recognition that Linda's manipulation of employment records and expense reporting created systematic fraud that violated corporate policies, regulatory requirements, and ethical standards governing human resources management. Her professional commitment to employment law compliance motivated her assistance, despite potential career complications and industry relationship consequences. The evidence Jennifer provided documented Linda's systematic falsification of employment records, travel authorizations, and expense reimbursements that had enabled David and Anastasia's affair while concealing corporate resource abuse from management oversight and regulatory scrutiny. Her testimony would provide crucial insider perspective about the scope and duration of systematic corporate fraud. Jennifer's analysis revealed coordination between Linda's record manipulation and broader patterns of corporate governance failure that suggested management complicity or negligent oversight of systematic misconduct. This evidence would support expanded legal action against David's firm, while providing foundation for regulatory investigation and potential criminal prosecution. The professional expertise Jennifer offered included detailed knowledge of employment law violations and corporate governance requirements that would strengthen legal claims while providing strategic guidance about regulatory reporting obligations and enforcement mechanisms. Her cooperation demonstrated professional integrity that inspired confidence about achieving systematic accountability. The third essential alliance emerged through connection with Dr. Sarah Williams, a licensed clinical psychologist who had become aware of Dr. Margaret Stevenson's systematic violation of therapeutic ethics and professional boundaries, through coordination with David to manipulate my psychological responses and relationship perceptions. Dr. Williams' professional standing and ethical commitment motivated her cooperation despite potential complications within the therapeutic community. Dr. Williams' involvement arose from her recognition that Dr. Stevenson's coordination with David violated fundamental principles of therapeutic practice, while creating potential criminal liability for psychological abuse and professional fraud. Her commitment to protecting therapeutic integrity and patient welfare motivated her assistance despite potential professional relationship consequences. The evidence Dr. Williams provided documented systematic patterns of therapeutic manipulation that Dr. Stevenson had utilized in coordination with David, while revealing broader misconduct that suggested similar violations with other clients. Her analysis would provide crucial expert testimony about the severity of ethical violations while supporting criminal referrals for professional abuse. Dr. Williams's professional expertise included detailed knowledge of therapeutic ethics and psychological manipulation techniques that would strengthen legal claims while providing strategic guidance about regulatory reporting requirements and enforcement procedures. Her willingness to testify demonstrated professional courage that ensured comprehensive accountability for therapeutic misconduct. The collaboration Dr. Williams offered included development of expert testimony about the psychological impact of systematic manipulation, while providing therapeutic support that would enable effective legal testimony and strategic decision-making. Her professional guidance strengthened both legal positioning and emotional resilience necessary for achieving justice. The fourth strategic alliance developed through coordination with Detective Michael Rodriguez, a financial crimes investigator who had become aware of potential criminal violations through the comprehensive evidence I had documented. Detective Rodriguez's professional commitment to investigating sophisticated financial fraud motivated his cooperation despite the complex jurisdictional and procedural challenges the case presented. Detective Rodriguez's involvement arose from his recognition that the evidence I had collected documented systematic financial fraud and conspiracy that required criminal investigation and potential prosecution. His expertise in complex financial crimes provided essential guidance about evidence standards and investigative procedures necessary for achieving criminal accountability. The investigative support Detective Rodriguez provided included coordination with federal agencies that possessed jurisdiction over interstate financial crimes and international asset concealment violations. His professional network enabled comprehensive investigation that exceeded local enforcement capabilities, while ensuring appropriate coordination between criminal and civil legal proceedings. Detective Rodriguez's expertise included detailed knowledge of financial crimes investigation and evidence collection procedures that would strengthen criminal referrals while providing strategic guidance about enforcement mechanisms and prosecution requirements. His cooperation ensured that David's sophisticated financial manipulation would result in appropriate criminal consequences. The law enforcement coordination Detective Rodriguez facilitated included access to specialized investigative resources and federal enforcement mechanisms that would address international asset concealment and multi-jurisdictional conspiracy elements. His professional support ensured comprehensive investigation regardless of geographic complications David might attempt to create. The fifth crucial alliance emerged through connection with Catherine Morrison, Marcus Richardson's former law partner who had discovered his systematic abuse of attorney-client privilege and professional responsibilities to facilitate David's conspiracy. Catherine's professional integrity and commitment to legal ethics motivated her cooperation, despite significant complications for her former partnership and professional relationships. Catherine's involvement arose from her recognition that Marcus's coordination with David violated fundamental principles of legal practice while creating potential criminal liability for conspiracy and professional fraud. Her commitment to protecting legal profession integrity motivated her assistants despite potential career consequences and professional relationship complications. The evidence Catherine provided documented systematic patterns of legal misconduct that Marcus had utilized in coordination with David, while revealing broader ethical violations that suggested similar misconduct with other clients. Her testimony would provide crucial insider perspective about the scope and sophistication of legal manipulation strategies. Catherine's professional expertise included detailed knowledge of legal ethics and attorney misconduct that would strengthen disciplinary complaints while providing strategic guidance about regulatory enforcement and criminal referral procedures. Her willingness to testify demonstrated legal profession integrity that ensured comprehensive accountability for professional misconduct. The legal support Catherine offered included access to internal documentation that revealed the complete scope of Marcus's coordination with David, while providing expert analysis of legal manipulation techniques that would strengthen criminal conspiracy claims. Her cooperation ensured that Marcus's eventual accountability would include comprehensive disciplinary action and potential criminal prosecution. The Sixth Strategic Alliance developed through coordination with Frank Thompson, a real estate industry whistleblower who had discovered Patricia Kellerman's systematic participation in fraudulent property schemes designed to disadvantage unsuspecting spouses during divorce proceedings. Frank's professional commitment to industry integrity motivated his cooperation, despite potential complications for his own business relationships. Frank's involvement arose from his recognition that Patricia's coordination with David represented part of broader industry misconduct that violated professional standards while exposing clients to legal liability through fraudulent property manipulation. His commitment to protecting consumer interests motivated his assistants despite potential professional consequences. The evidence Frank provided documented systematic patterns of real estate fraud that Patricia had implemented for multiple clients seeking to manipulate property values and disposition timing during divorce proceedings. His testimony would provide crucial industry perspective about the scope and prevalence of systematic property manipulation schemes. Frank's professional expertise included detailed knowledge of real estate law and industry practices that would strengthen fraud claims while providing strategic guidance about regulatory enforcement and professional discipline procedures. His cooperation ensured comprehensive accountability for real estate industry misconduct. The industry support Frank offered included access to professional networks and regulatory resources that would address systematic real estate fraud, while providing expert testimony about industry standards and ethical requirements. His assistance ensured that Patricia's misconduct would result in appropriate professional consequences and legal accountability. The Seventh Essential Alliance emerged through coordination with Maria Santos, a banking compliance officer who had discovered systematic financial reporting violations and currency transaction irregularities associated with David's offshore account establishment and international asset transfer activities. Maria's professional responsibility for regulatory compliance motivated her cooperation despite potential complications for her institution. Maria's involvement arose from her recognition that David's financial activities violated federal reporting requirements and international compliance standards, while creating potential criminal liability for currency violations and asset concealment. Her commitment to regulatory compliance motivated her assistants despite potential institutional complications. The evidence Maria provided documented systematic patterns of financial reporting violations that David had utilized in coordination with Thomas Morrison, while revealing broader compliance failures that suggested institutional oversight deficiencies. Her testimony would provide crucial regulatory perspective about federal law violations and enforcement requirements. Maria's expertise included detailed knowledge of banking regulations and compliance requirements that would strengthen criminal referrals while providing strategic guidance about federal enforcement mechanisms and international coordination procedures. Her cooperation ensured comprehensive accountability for financial regulatory violations. The regulatory support Maria offered included coordination with federal banking authorities and international enforcement agencies that possessed jurisdiction over David's offshore activities, while providing expert testimony about compliance standards and violation consequences. Her assistance ensured appropriate federal investigation and enforcement action. The comprehensive alliance network I had developed through systematic relationship building and professional coordination provided essential foundation for achieving justice that extended beyond individual legal representation into collaborative effort involving multiple professional communities committed to accountability and ethical standards enforcement. The motivational impact of discovering widespread professional support for achieving justice against David's sophisticated conspiracy provided psychological strength and strategic confidence that enhanced my ability to maintain focus during challenging circumstances while ensuring comprehensive accountability for systematic misconduct. The collective expertise and resources these alliances provided created strategic advantages that exceeded David's expectations about potential opposition, while ensuring that his sophisticated planning would ultimately serve comprehensive accountability rather than successful escape from consequences. The professional integrity and moral courage demonstrated by these allies provided inspiration and validation that strengthened my determination to pursue justice regardless of personal cost, while ensuring that David's conspiracy would result in meaningful consequences for everyone involved in systematic deception and professional misconduct. The strategic coordination these alliances enabled ensured comprehensive legal action that would address all aspects of David's conspiracy, while providing foundation for regulatory enforcement, professional discipline, and criminal prosecution that would create lasting accountability and protection for future potential victims of similar sophisticated schemes. The comprehensive intelligence network I had established through strategic alliances and systematic surveillance finally revealed the complete scope of David and Anastasia's conspiracy, exposing motivations and intentions that exceeded even my most pessimistic assessments of their character and moral boundaries. The evidence accumulated through months of patient documentation demonstrated that their collaboration represented far more than opportunistic affair combined with calculated financial advantage. The revelation emerged through intercepted communications between David and Anastasia during their Chicago coordination, where their perceived security and geographic distance from oversight created conditions for completely unguarded discussion about their ultimate objectives and their systematic planning for achieving those goals. The casual cruelty and calculated manipulation revealed in these conversations demonstrated psychological profiles that explained the sophisticated nature of their conspiracy, while exposing intentions that threatened consequences extending far beyond marital dissolution. David's communications revealed systematic planning that extended back nearly 2 years, predating Anastasia's employment at his firm and suggesting coordinated approach to infiltrating my family's life for purposes that transcended romantic relationship or professional advancement. His references to preliminary research about my background, financial resources, and social connections indicated strategic targeting that positioned me as opportunity rather than coincidental romantic obstacle. The intelligence revealed David's coordination with Anastasia involved detailed analysis of my personality characteristics, professional capabilities, and potential responses to various manipulation strategies. Their discussions demonstrated psychological profiling that enabled systematic exploitation of my trusting nature and family-centered priorities, while positioning their deception to maximize my emotional devastation and practical disadvantage. Anastasia's communications revealed sophisticated understanding of manipulation psychology and systematic exploitation techniques that suggested extensive experience with similar schemes involving other victims. Her casual references to previous successful implementations of comparable strategies indicated that her coordination with David represented refined methodology rather than improvised deception developed specifically for our circumstances. The evidence documented Anastasia's systematic research about successful strategies for displacing established wives while positioning themselves advantageously for inheriting accumulated wealth and social status. Her communications revealed detailed study of legal precedents, psychological manipulation techniques, and financial planning strategies that would enable comprehensive appropriation of resources while minimizing legal exposure and social consequences. David's correspondence demonstrated callous disregard for our children's emotional welfare that exceeded simple prioritization of personal happiness over family responsibilities. His discussions with Anastasia included strategic planning for eliminating my influence over Emma and Michael, while positioning himself as victim of unreasonable maternal interference with their natural development and independence. The communications revealed coordinated planning for systematic alienation strategies that would gradually separate our children from emotional attachment to me, while strengthening their dependence on David's financial support and approval. These psychological manipulation tactics demonstrated sophisticated understanding of family dynamics, while revealing intentions that prioritized David's relationship with Anastasia over our children's emotional security and family stability. Anastasia's correspondence revealed particular focus on appropriating my social connections and professional relationships for her own advancement, while systematically undermining my reputation and credibility within our shared community. Her strategic analysis included detailed planning for positioning herself as sympathetic figure deserving support during difficult transition, while portraying me as emotionally unstable and vindictive obstacle to reasonable resolution. The intelligence documented Anastasia's systematic cultivation of relationships with my former friends and professional contacts, through coordinated social media engagement and strategic communication, designed to establish foundation for future support when our family situation became public knowledge. Her manipulation strategies demonstrated sophisticated understanding of social dynamics, while revealing intentions that extended beyond personal relationship success into comprehensive social replacement. Financial analysis of their communications revealed systematic planning for appropriating resources that extended beyond legal asset division into coordinated strategies for accessing retirement accounts, insurance benefits, and investment portfolios through procedures that would minimize my financial security while maximizing their combined resources. Their coordination demonstrated detailed understanding of financial planning techniques while revealing intentions that prioritized comprehensive wealth appropriation over equitable resolution. The evidence revealed David's coordination with Anastasia included strategic planning for forcing my financial dependence through systematic elimination of professional opportunities and social support systems that would enable independent financial recovery. Their discussions demonstrated calculated cruelty that exceeded simple divorce strategy into systematic campaign for ensuring my long-term disadvantage and emotional isolation. Professional communications between David and his conspiracy accomplices revealed systematic coordination that extended beyond individual professional services into collaborative effort for achieving comprehensive advantage through coordinated manipulation of legal, financial, and social systems. The scope of professional coordination demonstrated unprecedented level of systematic misconduct that threatened institutional integrity across multiple professional domains. Marcus Richardson's correspondence with David revealed systematic planning for utilizing legal system manipulation to achieve outcomes that violated fundamental principles of justice and equitable treatment. Their coordination included strategies for exploiting procedural advantages, evidence suppression, and judicial bias that would prevent fair consideration of my legitimate interests and rights. The legal strategy revealed in their communications included systematic planning for character assassination and credibility destruction that would position me as unreliable witness and vindictive spouse whose testimony should be dismissed regardless of supporting evidence. These manipulation tactics demonstrated sophisticated understanding of legal psychology while revealing intentions that prioritized winning over justice or truth. Thomas Morrison's financial coordination with David revealed systematic planning for asset concealment and income manipulation that violated fundamental principles of fiduciary responsibility while exposing my financial interests to systematic theft through technically legal but ethically corrupt procedures. Their collaboration demonstrated professional misconduct that threatened the integrity of financial advisory relationships while revealing intentions that prioritized David's advantage over ethical obligations. Dr. Margaret Stevenson's therapeutic coordination with David revealed systematic planning for psychological manipulation that violated fundamental principles of professional ethics, while potentially creating lasting emotional damage through calculated exploitation of therapeutic relationship and professional trust. Their collaboration demonstrated unprecedented professional misconduct that threatened the integrity of therapeutic practice, while revealing intentions that prioritized manipulation over healing. The scope of psychological manipulation revealed in their communications included systematic planning for creating conditions that would undermine my emotional stability and decision-making capabilities, while positioning David as reasonable and concerned husband dealing with increasingly irrational wife. These strategies demonstrated sophisticated understanding of psychological abuse, while revealing intentions that extended beyond relationship control into systematic emotional destruction. Linda Whitmore's employment coordination with David revealed systematic planning for corporate resource abuse and employment fraud that violated fundamental principles of human resources management, while exposing the architectural firm to significant legal liability through systematic misconduct facilitated by internal coordination. Their collaboration demonstrated unprecedented corporate governance failure, while revealing intentions that prioritized personal benefit over institutional integrity. Patricia Kellerman's real estate coordination with David revealed systematic planning for property manipulation and disposition fraud that violated fundamental principles of professional responsibility, while exposing unsuspecting parties to financial harm through deceptive practices disguised as legitimate business services. Their collaboration demonstrated industry-wide ethical corruption, while revealing intentions that prioritized commission income over client protection. The comprehensive revelation of David and Anastasia's true character through systematic intelligence collection demonstrated psychological profiles characterized by narcissistic personality disorders, combined with sophisticated manipulation capabilities that enabled systematic exploitation of trust relationships and institutional vulnerabilities. Their coordination represented predatory behavior that threatened not only my family but potential future victims who might encounter similar systematic deception. The evidence revealed systematic planning that extended beyond immediate objectives into long-term strategies for social advancement and wealth accumulation, through repeated implementation of comparable manipulation schemes targeting vulnerable individuals with accumulated resources and trusting personalities. Their discussions indicated previous successful implementations while suggesting intentions for continued systematic exploitation of future opportunities. David's communications revealed complete absence of genuine remorse or emotional attachment to our family relationship, demonstrating that his 15 years of apparent commitment and shared family building represented systematic deception designed to establish foundation for eventual resource appropriation and social advancement. His casual dismissal of our shared history revealed psychological incapacity for authentic emotional connection, while confirming that our entire marriage had been strategic performance rather than genuine relationship. Anastasia's communications revealed sophisticated understanding of systematic exploitation techniques combined with complete absence of moral consideration for the consequences her actions created for innocent parties, including our children and extended family members. Her casual cruelty and strategic focus on maximizing damage to my emotional stability revealed psychological profile characterized by predatory instincts and manipulative expertise. The revelation of their true character provided crucial insight into the psychological dynamics that had enabled their sophisticated conspiracy, while explaining the confidence and systematic approach they had demonstrated throughout their coordination. Their casual cruelty and strategic focus on comprehensive destruction exceeded typical marital infidelity into systematic campaign for achieving total victory through comprehensive defeat of perceived obstacles. The intelligence also revealed their systematic underestimation of my capabilities and determination, demonstrating that their sophisticated planning had been based on psychological profiling that failed to account for my potential transformation from trusting victim into strategic opponent. Their confidence in my predictable compliance with their manipulation had prevented them from implementing adequate security measures or developing contingency strategies for potential resistance. The comprehensive nature of their conspiracy and the systematic cruelty revealed through their private communications provided essential motivation for pursuing maximum accountability, while demonstrating that any consideration for their welfare or reputation would be misplaced. Mercy that ignored the predatory nature of their coordination and the systematic harm they had created through calculated deception. The evidence of their true character eliminated any remaining emotional attachment or obligation I might have felt toward preserving David's reputation or minimizing consequences for their systematic misconduct. Their revealed intentions and psychological profiles demonstrated that comprehensive accountability represented not only personal justice, but protection for potential future victims who might encounter similar systematic exploitation. The comprehensive intelligence gathered regarding David and Anastasia's predatory conspiracy reached a critical juncture when surveillance confirmed their return from Chicago, accompanied by accelerated timeline implementation that would require immediate decisive action to prevent irreversible damage to my family's security and future stability. Eleanor's emergency consultation emphasized that the moment for strategic patience had concluded, replaced by necessity for coordinated legal intervention that would determine whether systematic preparation would achieve justice or sophisticated manipulation would prevail. The intelligence indicated that David's Chicago coordination had resulted in concrete implementation plans for displacement activities scheduled to commence within 72 hours of their return. Anastasia had submitted resignation notice to the architectural firm, while simultaneously coordinating with moving services for relocating her possessions into our family home during the upcoming weekend, when I would typically be visiting my elderly mother, according to established routine patterns. The systematic nature of their coordination demonstrated confidence that their planning had addressed all potential obstacles while positioning themselves advantageously for implementing complete displacement without significant resistance or legal intervention. Their timeline reflected assumption that my emotional attachment and financial dependence would ensure compliance with their demands regardless of personal devastation or family disruption their actions would create. David's communications with Marcus Richardson revealed completion of legal documentation designed to characterize our marriage as irretrievably broken, due to my alleged emotional instability and unreasonable demands that had created intolerable living conditions requiring immediate separation. The fabricated narrative positioned David as reasonable husband seeking amicable resolution while portraying me as vindictive obstacle preventing civilized discussion and equitable settlement. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.